Singh 1984, Guvluv84Arya, Voice Ethnicity Limited, and I just wanted to do a blog regarding the recent shooting in Texas where 19 children were gunned down. It's very sad news, very tragic. It's just, it makes you think, makes you wonder. It's just terrible news. I just wanted to talk about guns in general in America and other parts of the world, and I feel guns should be banned. I think that's something that has to be considered in America. Is it going to happen? Probably unlikely, but if it could happen, it would be amazing. There was a recent shooting by white supremacists that targeted the black community in a supermarket in the United States recently. There was a shooting in a Taiwanese church where the Taiwan community were targeted, and it's tragic. It's very sad. America's a fucked up place. It's as simple as that. It's a fucked up. It's a paranoid place. It's such a paranoid place. It looks horrible. Just guns. And so this is just what I wanted to say, to share my opinion regarding banning of guns. So let's talk about when guns are in use. So say, for example, army, because a lot of these hot-headed young youth who use guns or think they have the right to use guns, they will say, well, the army used guns, so why can't we have guns? So we'll try to put things into perspective. So say, for example, an army, they approach a court and they pitch their case, they testify their case, and they seek the court's, war council court, permission to shoot. And the war council will either grant them a resolution to go into combat, or they will veto it and say no, they cannot go to war. So let's say the army get the resolution in their favour, and they have permission to shoot by a court of the land, and they're given permission to open fire. So they go to war, they have the war finishes, and then they return to the barracks. Now what is supposed to happen is the soldiers are supposed to lock their firearms, their weapons, in the gun cabinet. And once it's locked up in the gun cabinet, you lock it with a key, and the soldiers leave the barracks, and when they only leave from the army, they return to their day-to-day lives, and they're just as unarmed and vulnerable as every other person, every other member of the public. So when they go back to their day-to-day lives in society, when they return home to their children and wives, or they could be LGBT, you never know. When they return to their day-to-day lives, they don't have the weapons on them because the war's over. They were granted permission to go into combat. That combat's over. They return to their barracks. They've locked their weapons away. Now they're just walking down the streets like every other average Joe without any weapons and just as vulnerable. Now, if there's ever a case where they need to run back to the barracks to open the gun cabinet, they will approach a council, again a war council, for a resolution to go into combat. But if they haven't been granted permission to shoot, they cannot shoot. So what happens is, I came to this conclusion many years ago. If we all agree to not have firearms, to not have the permit to carry, the license to carry firearms, though we will all be equally more vulnerable to being attacked, to being mugged, to being burgled, to being robbed, we'll all be equally vulnerable to being subjected to those sort of crimes. We will also be equally more, that extra bit safer. And by that I mean we'll be safe from bullets flying around, stray bullets and gun shootouts. And there's been so many cases in America when there've been drive-by shootings that children have been caught up in the crossfire. Bullets have penetrated through the front windows of people's houses or their properties and hurt a member of their family just sitting on the sofa because of the shootout. So if we were all to agree to ban firearms for public use, we'll be more vulnerable to being, like I said, there'll be people like, rubbing their hands together, oh, they can't do anything now. It's going to be like taking candy off a baby, and see it as an opportunity to target people. So there has to, if people see if people see it as an opportunity to start being more aggressive towards unarmed people, so then the penalty has to be a lot more harsher, even if it's for something small, because the courts will look at them saying, now you're taking the piss. People decided to put the guns in the gun cabinet and lock them up, and you decided to attack and burgle them or rob them for their property, and saw it as an easy opportunity to make easy money. And so that has to be punished very harshly, so people are deterred from taking the piss, because people didn't put their guns away so people can rob them. They put them away so people don't have access to firearms to walk into schools and shoot up innocent children or teachers, or to shoot up supermarkets or churches, or if people agree to put the guns away, then they'll be an extra bit safer from stray bullets flying around in playgrounds when there's drive-by shootings by hotheads, by idiots. So that's why I feel guns should be banned. But I think what the problem with America is what I think their diet has a lot to do with why they're so trigger happy. Like, if you were to watch these YouTube videos about what European standard food is, the Food Standard Agency in Europe is, and the Food Standard Agencies, or lack of, in America, the same product, the same food, the same snack or fast food, if you look at the ingredients that what goes into it when it's made in Europe compared to what the ingredients are when it's made in America, there's so much extra shit in it. There's all this crazy fucking chemicals, additives, and there's all these extra. It's got so much nonsense in it. And when it comes to their meat, they inject it with steroids. Their beefs and their lambs, and it's injected with beef. It's injected with steroids. And if you've got experience in weight training, bodybuilders who use steroids are also very moody. They have mood swings. So when you're putting that steroid in your beef, and then you're having a steak or a burger, and you're putting those steroids in your body, it's going to make you more snappy, more moody, and more aggressive, and more confrontational. So something that you would otherwise let slide, you're going to snap and pounce on and make an issue of it, and want to stand your ground about something. Things that aren't worthy. It's like, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's like it makes them so trigger happy. So if that firearm was removed, so that moment they experience the moments of rage, they don't have a firearm to reach out to and start going all guns blazing during a moment of rage. If that opportunity to have a gun is removed, then they'll just have to stand there and have a rage without having any access to reach to any weapon. Whereas if they experience that steroid rage and all those chemicals in their foods and all that rage, and there's a gun in their purse or in their wallet or in their holster, then they're going to reach for it in a moment of rage. And there's always a moment where something so small, someone might have had a bad day, and then they just experience a moment of rage and they just reach for a firearm. So they need to really sort out their food standard agency and have it like a European model for their food for their food standards. And but the American gun lobby, they're going to be like, stand your ground, their constitutional right, you're not taking their guns away from them. I'm not saying people can't go to a gun range and select a few guns and do a gun course, like shoot at a target range to let off some steam. Fair enough, but to have a permit, a license to carry for your personal self, to stand your ground, if you give up that right to own a gun, we'll all be equally vulnerable to being attacked by idiots. But we'll also be the extra bit safer that there's a reduced risk of people being able to have access to firearms to walk into schools, or to have stray bullets flying around when there's shootouts. So it's something to think about. I'm basing it on how it is in Britain. There are some dangerous parts of London or other parts of Britain that have gone downhill, but I'm just talking parts of Britain where it's relatively calm. And I think that would be good for America. Maybe they should do trial anti-gun laws in particular states within the United States, of Turtle Island, of Anahuac, the indigenous Aztlan, and things like that. So it's just something to think about. There's something more I wanted to say. Let me just think what I want to say. Yes, I just think would be that extra bit safer.